CUC, we care about helping our customers. Here are some quick energy saving tips from CUC so you can use less energy and save money. Set your AC Smart thermostat to maintain an indoor temperature of 87 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you are away from home, and have the temperature cool to a comfortable 78 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you arrive home. Adding insulation can cut your cooling costs by 15 to 45%, depending on your home's size and current insulation. Focus on insulating your attic, walls, and windows for the best results. For your laundry, avoid over-drying clothes. Not only does it waste energy, but it also harms fabrics. Dry towels and heavier cottons separately from lighter weight fabrics to save energy. Your TV and gaming setup can be big energy consumers. Save costs by reducing in-game settings.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth.
Every small step
Welcome
counts.
to another
Use
episode
energy
with
wisely
more
and make a big
truth-telling, more
difference in your
problem
energy
solving,
bills
and of
the
course,
environment.
more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in
When
session.
you run your own business,
Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you.
Father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the 16th of 19 candidate forums for the 2025 general elections in the Cayman Islands, proudly hosted by the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce. My name is Omari Corbin, and I'm honored to serve as the current president of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm also pleased to be one of the panelists posing questions to our candidates this evening, along with Chamber President-elect Christina Spratt. Before we begin, I would like to sincerely thank the three Georgetown Central candidates, Mr. Anthony Ramoon, Mrs. Carmen McField, and Mr. Kenneth Bryan, for accepting our invitation to participate in tonight's forum. By appearing together on this platform, you demonstrate a shared commitment to the democratic process and to the people of Georgetown Central. Your presence signals your readiness to address the pressing issues raised by the community through a recent chamber survey, which has helped shape the questions that we'll be asking tonight. While time won't allow us to cover every question submitted, we will do our best to focus on the topics identified as most important to the voters in the Cayman Islands as well as Georgetown Central. When the Chamber was founded in 1965, it was built on the principles of supporting, promoting, and protecting the interests of our members and the wider community. Remaining strictly nonpartisan, we have proudly hosted these candidate forums every election year since 1988. We've provided a neutral platform for 9 elections, allowing voters to hear directly from those seeking public office and helping our community make informed decisions on election day. The questions for tonight's forum have been carefully developed based on past and current chamber surveys, our 3-year advocacy agenda, and submissions from the public in various constituencies. No candidate has received these questions in advance, ensuring a fair and open discussion. As an organization committed to supporting a strong and sustainable Cayman, the Chamber's advocacy efforts focus on 3 key pillars: building a future-ready workforce, sustaining economic success, and advancing quality of life. The newly elected Chamber Council believe that these pillars are fundamental to the continued growth and prosperity of our islands. Looking ahead, the Chamber intends to collaborate with the incoming government to develop a government accountability scorecard, ensuring accountability and transparency. Additionally, we will seek representation on key government boards and authorities as we believe our members bring valuable expertise that can help shape effective policies and initiatives. These forums require months of coordination, and I'd like to acknowledge the tremendous efforts of Will and our chamber staff who have worked diligently behind the scenes. I'd also like to express our gratitude to Ashley Furniture and Home Store, Foster's, CUC, and Logic for their generous sponsorship, which has made these forums possible. Additionally, we appreciate our media partners, Cayman Mall Road, Cayman Live TV, and ICCI FM for broadcasting tonight's event. We are live streaming the forums, making it easier than ever for voters to tune in from the comfort of their homes. We hope this added accessibility encourages even greater participation in the democratic process. The Chamber Council is also pleased to announce that the leaders of the three political parties have confirmed their participation in the Chamber's inaugural debate featuring the party leaders scheduled for next Wednesday, April 9th. This marks a historic first for the Chamber, providing the community with a unique opportunity to hear directly from each leader about their party's vision and priorities, both on national issues and local concerns. We hope that you will tune in. And now, it's time to begin. I'll turn the proceedings over to Will Panu, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, who will serve as tonight's moderator. Will outline the forum's rules and introduce our candidates from Georgetown Central.
Well, good evening, candidates. Tonight's forum is designed to give each of you a fair opportunity to present your positions on key issues. The rules for tonight include each candidate will be asked a series of 12 questions. You'll have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question if you choose to do so. If you hear a bell sound, that means your 2 minutes is up, and I'll ask you to wind up your response. Candidates are allowed to speak without interruption, so I ask no other candidate to disrupt them during their response. And you'll basically have, at the end of the forum, you'll have 2.5 minutes to deliver a closing statement. Now it gives me pleasure to introduce our candidates for Georgetown Central. We'll begin with Anthony Ramon. He's running as the Caymanian Community Party candidate for Georgetown Central. Born and raised in Georgetown Central, Mr. Ramon has always lived by the values of faith, family, and community. A proud Caymanian and former national football player, Mr. Ramon is now stepping onto a different field, one where he aims to represent the people of Georgetown Central in Parliament. He holds a degree in economics and finance from Syracuse University and has spent the past 19 years in regulatory financial services, most recently with the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority. His deep industry knowledge fuels his mission to create a more socially balanced Cayman, where strong economy benefits all Caymanians, not just a few. He's known not only for his professional credentials, but also for his enduring commitment to youth and community development. As a national footballer for over 2 decades, Mr. Ramon continues to give back through sports administration and mentorship via the Georgetown Sports Club. He was also a driving force behind the creation of the Central Scranton Park, a vital community hub. Mr. Ramon is a passionate supporter of arts and culture preservation, having co-founded the Native Sons Arts Collective and supported institutions such as the Cultural Foundation, National Gallery, and Pirates Week. Running with the Caymanian Community Party, Mr. Ramon stands for integrity, accountability, and a fairer, more inclusive society. His priorities include job creation, affordable housing, and addressing the high cost of living. Guided by humility and a strong sense of duty, Mr. Ramon is committed to delivering practical, people-first solutions for Georgetown Central and beyond. Welcome, Mr. Ramon.
Thank you.
Mrs. Carmen McField is running as the Cayman Islands National Party candidate for Georgetown Central. Born and raised in Georgetown Central, she is a proud Caymanian with deep roots in the community she seeks to serve. The youngest of 8 siblings and the daughter of Mrs. Mavis Morris and the late Rex Morris of Cayman Brac, Mrs. McField's lifelong commitment to service was inspired by her grandmother, the late Isabel Bell McField. A graduate of Georgetown Primary and the Cayman Islands High School, Mrs. McField was active in sports and student life, early signs of her leadership and community spirit. Over the past 34 years, she has built a distinguished career in the financial services sector, holding senior roles at Republic Bank and Merrill Lynch, including Assistant Vice President. She is a certified compliance officer, certified in trust estate, and a member of the Cayman Islands Compliance Association. Mrs. McField has served with the Girls Brigade over 4 decades and is a longstanding volunteer at the Elmsley United Memorial Church, where she co-leads community outreach initiatives like EATS, a food support program launched during the COVID-19 pandemic. A passionate community advocate, Mrs. McField founded the Prospect Red Bay Community Group and co-founded the NPO's Cayman Kind Action Committee and Be Kind, Be Humble, Be the Light, which support seniors, families, and mental health programs. She has also contributed to educational and cultural programs at Prospect Primary School and served on the Adoption Board, Status and Residency Board, and the Football Disciplinary Committee. Mrs. McField brings proven leadership, a heart of service, and a vision rooted in community upliftment. Welcome, Mrs. McField.
Thank you.
Mr. Kenneth Bryan is running as the People's Progressive Movement candidate for Georgetown Central. First elected to Parliament in 2017, he is the current constituency representative for Georgetown Central, the very constituency where he was born and raised. He was re-elected in 2021 and served as Deputy Premier, Minister for Tourism and Ports, and Minister for Social Development and Innovation. Mr. Bryan has played a key role in strengthening Cayman's position on the regional stage. From 2022 to 2024, he chaired the Caribbean Tourism Association Council of Ministers and Commissioners of Tourism, guiding policy and fostering collaboration across the Caribbean tourism sector. Even after completing his term, he remains active in international and regional affairs that directly impact the Cayman Islands. With a background in both public service and media, Mr. Bryan brings a unique blend of communication and leadership experience to his role. He previously served as political assistant to the Premier from 2013 to 2015 and was widely recognized for his work as a television reporter at Cayman 27. He holds a degree in business administration from the University College of the Cayman Islands and is certified in backpack journalism by the Poynter Institute in Tampa. Mr. Bryan began his professional career as a fire officer in 1997, gaining firsthand experience in frontline public service. A dedicated family man, he is married with 2 daughters and is a member of both the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and the Cayman Islands Youth Parliament Committee. He continues to serve with passion, focusing on empowering people and building a better future for Georgetown Central and the wider Cayman Islands. Again, welcome, candidates. We've given our viewers a background of each of the candidates. Now it's time for a short commercial break, and when we return, we'll begin the questions for each of the Georgetown Central candidates. Please stay tuned.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Why is my bill higher? These days, it might seem like the cost of everything is going up here in Cayman. When it comes to your energy bill, this may be no exception. You may be wondering why your bill is higher when you haven't done anything different in your home. Here are some common factors that will increase your energy usage. As temperatures outside increase, your air conditioning unit has to run longer to keep your house cool, even if you haven't adjusted the thermostat. During the summer months, cooling your home can make up more than half of your energy bill. It's important to maintain your AC so that it can function as efficiently as possible. Changing your AC filters can also help with ensuring units are functioning properly. Remember, for every degree you turn up your thermostat, you can save on your monthly energy cost. Turn off your AC when no one is home. Thermostat should not be set any lower than 78 degrees. Also consider closing blinds and drapes on the sunny side of your home. This will help reduce the temperature inside your home. Remember to consider energy waste. Think about the items in your home that are using energy, like gaming computers and ceiling fans. Always unplug and turn these items off when they are not in use or needed. This will help you conserve. Now that you have some energy saving tips, you can track your consumption daily on MyCUC. Learn more at www.cuc-cayman.com.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Georgetown Central. I'm going to turn it over to Omari Scott to begin the questioning of the candidates this evening.
Thanks, Will. Mr. Ramon, we'll start with you for question number 1. Why have you decided to run in this election, and how do you plan to effectively represent the people of Georgetown Central if elected?
Good evening, Cayman, Georgetown Central, Mrs. Markfield, Mr. Brian, and our hosts. I sit here tonight, proud and with pride to say I'm from Georgetown Central, born and raised, and I'm humbly put myself forward to represent the people of Georgetown Central. If there were no major issues or concerns, I wouldn't be sitting here tonight. And while it wasn't an easy decision, I would say it was after a long contemplation, but it had to be a road travel. The people of Georgetown Central and the wider Georgetown have been left behind for far too long. We have been misrepresented, disenfranchised, and in some cases been led astray for the last 8 years or even more beyond that. When I said people have been left behind, it is to the fact that we have not developed our people at the rate of development in this country. And therefore, that is why we are in this predicament that we are here this evening discussing some of the issues and concerns of this country. And these issues and concerns have been overlooked far too long. And now it's time to address those matters. That's employment, cost of living, immigration, population growth, and traffic, just to name a few. So I'm here today, humbly and a steward of the community, to give leadership with vision, proper representation, dedication, respect, and commitment to empower you, our people, and to move our people forward together. For the love of the people of Georgetown Central and this country, I will be available. I will work hard all year, every year, and to ensure that everyone enjoy the benefit of the progress and development of this country. Thank you. And when elected, we'll deal with some of the current issues, not only in the constituency, but also where we would look at cost of living, education and workforce sustainability, and housing. Those are some of the key areas to address in Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon. Mrs. Markfield?
Thank you for the questions. I want to say thank you for having us, for hosting. I am honored to be here, and thank you for my guests and the people that's here. Thank you, Mr. Anthony and Mr. Brian. And I go straight into the question. Please don't time me since I just introduced. I said, I can no longer. I want to say thanks and giving God grace. I want to say I'm here to represent and put myself forward, because I can no longer just sit back and watch while my people struggle to advance their own country, whether it's owning their own home or having a good paying job. Instead, many of them see no hope in sight. Year after year, they wait for things to change for better, and they feel as if they just holding on with empty promises that has not been fulfilled. I'm a mother, a grandmother, and a wife. I'm running because in 15 years in the last 15 years, successive governments has failed the people. Cost of living is at an all-time high. Healthcare is unaffordable. Housing is unaffordable. Food is unaffordable. Education standards are poor. Our seniors are left behind. Flooding is out of control. Traffic is out of control. Caymanians want change. The Cayman Islands National Party is that change. Where people are tired of politicians providing poor representation and broken promises. Any decision made has to be for the good of the Caymanians and our lives, for the lives of our people. Politicians have chosen pet projects, such as some that we have in our central Georgetown that cost $9.5 million and more. It may be that we definitely need a park, but not at that cost. Parks that cost $9.5 million, flooding and citizens that are in dire needs. How do we prioritize a park or the people that are in dire needs? We got those same people in central Georgetown with roofs leaking and flooding every rain season. What are we doing to rectify that? So it is time that I step up, and hence the reason I'm here.
Thank you, Mrs. McPhail. Mr. Bryan?
Thank you, Omari. Thank you, panelists and colleagues. Thank you so much. Good evening, Georgetown Central. 8 years ago, you, the good people of Georgetown Central, placed your trust in me to be your representative. And that meant not just being a politician, but being your friend, your advocate, and your agent for change. And during that time, I've served you, my people, with dedication, compassion, and with total respect. I've kept in touch. I've listened to your concerns. I've been your voice in government, both in the opposition and in cabinet, and sought your input on all the various issues that affect us all. These are not things that I've done just to win an election. This is who I am. This is the type of representative that I am and will continue to be for you. You see, I love you, Georgetown, and I will continue to fight in your corner regardless, fighting to bring about meaningful changes in your life. But you have to do that collectively and not individually. And that's why I'm running for re-election, because my commitment to you, the Georgetown people, and Georgetown Central in particular, isn't political. This is personal because of our relationship together that we've grown over the last 12 years. Every day I wake up with one mission in mind, which is to serve you, my people, with integrity, transparency, and with honesty. I've worked tirelessly, both as a representative and as a minister, and as a champion for change, even when many people don't like it. Because my vision for our future is one where every hardworking person in this country gets a fair wage, where home ownership is within the reach of every Caymanian, where our seniors don't have to choose between paying their bills or buying food, and where our immigration system works as it was intended to put Caymanians first, while at the same time still allowing our economy to thrive. I'm not running for a paycheck. I'm running to build a stronger, more prosperous future for Georgetown Central and for the greater 3 Cayman Islands. If I'm re-elected, I will continue to dedicate my heart, my time, and my energy to delivering the solutions that will uplift families, empower our youth, and support our seniors, because I believe every Caymanian has the right to live happy, productive, and prosperous lives. And that I will continue to deliver for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan.
I'm going to continue with the second question, and it's regarding national issues. Mrs. McPhail, I'm going to start with you. What are the top 3 national issues you would prioritize if elected? And why are they the most urgent to address?
Sure, thank you for the question. Top 3 national issues for me would be the cost of living, employment opportunities, and affordable housing, and the flooding issues that we have in central Georgetown. And we must make cost of living affordable for all. It is a must. It's a necessity. Creating opportunities for Caymanian citizens, prioritizing education, healthcare, and housing. Strengthening our economy securing our borders, improving our infrastructure, creating more environmental sustainability, ensuring transparent government that are here to put Caymanians first. So that's my top priorities. Thanks.
Mr. Bryan, continuing with you.
Thank you, Ms. Pratt. The top three issues for me are housing, cost of living, and immigration. Immigration covers a lot of those other effects because obviously with the high level of population that we have in the island and the abuses of the immigration system is preventing many Caymanians from getting employment opportunities. So it's interconnected. It's also increasing the cost of housing, which is another concern, particularly for Caymanian first-time homeowners and those young people who are coming back home from school. So probably the biggest issue would be immigration because it's interconnected to all the other matters, whether it's cost of living, housing, traffic, and even crime. And I'm happy to say that I'm a part of a government that is committed to taking care of the abuses of the immigration system to make sure that it's good for our economy and protective of our Caymanian people. We see the traffic that we have every day. The growth in the population was not planned properly and is causing the negative effects that we're seeing. We have to do better at our controls of our borders, not only by sea, but also by air. We start investing in the right technology to protect with Coast Guard effects, because we have people coming in bringing drugs, illegal contraband, and even illegal citizens. And I think that if we focus on immigration, all the other effects that are affecting us will help us a lot. In respect to cost of living, I think that one of the biggest issues is cost of healthcare in the Cayman Islands. And that's why the progressive government will ensure that all children in the Cayman Islands will have free healthcare and also reduce the cost for seniors. So we want to take care of those who are young and those who are older. Not saying those in the middle are not a priority, but they're in the best healthy part of their life to be able to handle the struggles, because we know that cost of living is a very complex problem. And we're going to try our best to make sure that those costs that we cannot control, make sure that there's more money left in people's pockets to afford those concerns. But housing is probably one of the number one things that I've heard in Georgetown Central, because obviously it's a developing area in the capital, and many young Georgetown Central persons are worried that they cannot afford the prices in Georgetown Central. So I'm committed to be a part of the government that is going to make sure that that's a top priority and redeveloping our housing strategies to build more homes for Caymanians. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Ramon, same question.
Thank you. The three top priorities would be cost of living, education and workforce sustainability, and housing. Cost of living affects everyone in this country, whether if you're rich or poor, but it would have more impact in terms of those that are economically challenged. And looking at lowering the cost of living, looking at your electricity bill, food, housing, insurance, and health insurance. Those are some of the key components that myself and my team will look at those issues in terms of addressing cost of living. Education and workforce sustainability, these are critical. So we're looking at the entire education system and almost to build a robust education system fit for purpose, looking at the industries that we have currently in the Cayman Islands and how we can address and sustain those employment opportunities, and ensuring individuals have the opportunity when finishing their education to come back to education opportunities and employment opportunities. So that's about communication with our work and the government and partnership with private entities. Housing is very critical. Land ownership, housing is, well, I look at land is power. Those are in control of that. So we have to look at individuals. Every Caymanian should have the opportunity to own land if they're striving to, whether if that land or housing come in single story or complexes. We have to look at that. When we look at Georgetown Central, it is almost like a dying community, and in particular Georgetown Central. So as we already heard, that it's a growing township, and we have to look at the quality of life for those individuals that remains in there, because we have elderly that will have no way to go and won't be able to be relocated in this country. So we have to look at the current quality of life for those individuals, and also for a younger generation coming up, what opportunity or chances they will have to own land in this country. So those are things we have to critically look at. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next three questions will be based on the Chamber pillar of advancing quality of life. And Mr. Bryan, we'll start with you for question number 3 on the topic of Georgetown revitalization. Are you satisfied with the results of the Georgetown revitalization efforts to date? If not, what specific strategies or incentives would you propose to further boost life and economic activity in Georgetown Central and along the waterfront? Kindly address parking in your response.
Thank you for the question. I'm not satisfied with the redevelopment of Georgetown Central, mainly because the lack of infrastructure, particularly with sewage, is one of the biggest hurdles. And yes, parking is a big problem. I think we have to adjust the planning laws to not mandate such large parking requirements for development. I also think that the generational Cayman home landowners and property owners in the area should be given incentivized benefits to allow them to redevelop the areas. We have a lot of old structures there that can be turned into residential complexes if the right infrastructure is created, but it's going to be a costly exercise. You just saw the recent road works in the area, and why that took so long is because they had to do a lot of underground work. So if you want to truly revitalize Georgetown, there's going to have to take a concerted effort, and it can't be on the property owners themselves, and also all the businesses in the area. We can't ignore the fact of cruise tourism is a key component for the Georgetown Central area and the cargo facility. If we want to truly bring back what Georgetown was, we're going to have to discuss the topic of the cargo facility. As our population continues to grow, so will our cargo. And that means more and more trucks going through the Georgetown Central area, where it's a business community. The two worlds can't live together. So we have to make a decision if we are truly committed to Georgetown revitalization of moving cargo outside of town. The other part is, I think that if the people of the Cayman Islands choose to support the referendum on the cruise berthing infrastructure, I think we can bring back life to the area, which will give investments to those property owners and those renters to have the necessary requirements and monies to do renovations to the properties and bring back the life there. It used to be a place where the restaurants was the place to be on the waterfront at night. And I think it can happen again. It's just going to take commitment and support from the government with the necessary incentives and discounts in respect to renovations that they want to do. But parking has to be one of those changes because there's limited land space in the Georgetown Central area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Mr. Ramoon?
Yes, thank you. Very good question. And when I said that, and what I alluded to in my earlier response, that Tong is dying. And over the years, and I know we've talked about the revitalization, but we have not built a Cayman product in the last 10 years or more. So we can continue to look at infrastructure, but when we disregard small businesses or even the fabric of our culture and heritage, where we talk about tourists who will be coming here to appreciate and see these this exposure of our culture, that is no longer here. So we, as a people, already is disappearing within the growing population of Cayman. So therefore, when we talk about revitalization, we have to look about revitalizing the people or businesses and what is here. Parking already, with the changes in infrastructure, have taken away so much more of our parking that was already there. So we are at a disadvantage right now. When you walk through town, there is basically not much open space. Can't go there to sit down and enjoy the ambience of town. There's no benches, there's no shade, there's no public restroom. So these are the fundamental of we talking about township. We can go, we can have mixed purpose buildings, whether if it's commercial, residential, but at the end of the day, where would the life be in town? We have to look at all of those things collectively.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon. Mrs. McFeel?
Sure. Thank you for the question. When it comes to Georgetown revitalization, I must say it is a dying attempt. It's been working. The government has been trying to revitalize Georgetown for the last 5 years. I'm not sure if it's completed as yet because all I'm seeing is pavers on the ground. If it was to be revitalized, my take is it should have been a conversation with the owners of those buildings, those older buildings in Georgetown. Having a conversation saying that they want to revitalize Georgetown, that goes hand in hand with the port or the cruise and the port. And they should all partner and come together to have a conversation. There's buildings there that's older than me. There's buildings there that's over 60-something years old, 70-something years old, including with the post office. And those buildings need restructuring. They need plumbing, electrical. So if you're going to vitalize, to put a lot of the electrical work on the ground and put pavers on the ground, it costs hundreds and thousands of dollars. Why didn't they partner with the building, the landowners, and so forth, and have that conversation so they all could do that together? Decide whether the building owners want to revitalize their business, upgrade the business, paint them, renovate the business, so it could go hand in hand with the groundwork and everything else that's happening there. There is things to be done at the port. There's things to be done with the roads. There's things to be done with businesses. There was no conversation. So a lot of the small businesses lost revenue. They shut down because there was no planning. There was no conversation there. So that was just like an effort that just money just down the drain. Is the problem we're having here is the lack of lack of managing money is the problem we're having right now. And that's why I think revitalization it has failed. It has failed.
Thank you, Mrs. McPhail.
I'm going to continue with the next question, and it's regarding cost of living. I'm going to start with Mr. Ramon. With the cost of living being a top concern for voters, what concrete steps would you take to ease financial pressure on the people of Georgetown Central?
Cost of living. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of cost of living, it has many components when we look at our day-to-day operation, our monthly bills, that in terms of you and I going to the shop, buying groceries, what's in the cost of groceries, and working with the supermarkets, looking at food security in terms of alternative routes, ease of, I would say, governmental bureaucracy in terms of allowing those merchants to bring or have the options to source groceries and products from other countries, whether if it's from the Central American or neighboring Jamaica, Panama, all of those things. So those are some of the components. When we also look at our CUC bill, how do we then try to lower that? You know, we all talk about CUC or light bills, and having a discussion with the utility company and having some, I would say, suggestions where we talk about efficiency in your home. How do we lower our monthly bill? You know, energy efficiency, renewable energy, all of those things have to look at. So those are some of the suggestions and things that we have to look at and consider lowering our costs. Housing insurance, mortgages, those are some of the highest parts, and saying, well, if we're working with the banking institution to say, well, extending term loans from maybe 30 years to 60 years, lowering those incomes, easing that burden from monthly constraints. So those are some of those measures that can be assisted in government, given the thing. And also encouraging household in terms of financial management. You know, sometimes we just look at it and say, well, I just have enough money to pay my monthly bills, rather than saying, knowing how to plan properly and how we can save money or learn how to make our money work for us. So it's not just a matter of paying your monthly. So those are some of the suggestions and things myself and the team will work on in terms of easing some of those burdens. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. McField?
Sure. Thank you. So the cost of living, as we mentioned, is something that affecting everyone. It varies from food to housing to everything that makes us operate as a country. One way that we could eliminate or assist with that is, again, go back to partner with our supermarkets. The government should have had that conversation where they go to the supermarkets and they could figure out whether the supermarkets could go to our neighboring countries, partner with partner with our Caribbean, CARICOM, the CARICOM Caribbean neighbors. We are part of CARICOM here in the Cayman Islands. Cayman Islands is part of the CARICOM organization, and they could see if they could source cheaper food from the Caribbean islands, such as Jamaica, Honduras, Panama, various neighboring countries. And we could perhaps get that food cheaper from those neighboring countries and bring it through, find a way, because a lot of the foods we getting directly from the US came through the Caribbean islands and came from these same neighboring islands. What we need to do is cut out the middleman and go directly to them and see if we could cut it back that way. Another way that we could cut cost of living is the government. Why don't we have solar panels on all of our government buildings and parking lots? That would cut the cost of what they pay in utilities by more than 50% on an annual basis if you put solar panel on every government-owned building. That is another way we could cut costs, and that could trigger down whatever we save, trigger down to helping with seniors, healthcare, and various things that we pay so much money for when it comes to the social services and so forth, and our struggling families. So there's various ways that we could cut costs. We had various government ministers that went and attempt over the last year, 2 years, last 4 years, and they came back and we never knew whether that was successful, of them traveling to Honduras or so forth. So we don't know what they're doing. There's no transparency in open dialogue to say what was done to cut that cost of living. Nothing was done. And this is 8 years, 4 years, and nothing is still done.
Thank you. Mr. Bryan?
Thank you so much for the question. A number of things has been said. Cost of living is a very complex issue. And I think the best way for us to assist our people is to leave more money in their pockets, address the things that we can control, and try to make sure that Caymanians are getting paid a fair wage to afford the things that we can't. So as you heard me say before, for many families, a major cost for them if they don't work for government is the cost of health care for children. So we'll alleviate some pressures on families with that. Also, for those who are retired, we're intending to increase the cap of available pension payments to seniors because the current cap is obviously not reflective of the cost within the Cayman Islands now. Also, bringing up the minimum wage. Another way to increase monies into the people's pockets to afford the things that we cannot control. I do agree that we should consider other Caribbean islands, and we are an associate member of CARICOM, not a CARICOM member. But building relationships with those countries is important. Hence the reason why I introduced the Cayman Airways flight to Panama, because the type of planes that we have has major cargo space, 50% more than the old planes. And the plan of action there is to allow places and companies like Chamber of Commerce to use that facility to have more trade with the South American market. And yes, I agree, CARICOM associated members should have discussions with each other to see if we can trade with each other to have it more cheaper. Also, for the Department of Financial Assistance, not everybody is going to be able to afford the cost of living today. The current requirement for you to get help, you have to be making less than $3,000. A person making $3,000 can't survive in Cayman, so we have to bring up that threshold to assist parents, single mothers, seniors who just don't make enough, because rent alone can just cover the $3,000 and you can't buy food or pay for anything else. So we have to bring up that threshold. And more importantly, create an economy that is conducive for Caymanians to survive in. We have to strengthen our immigration system to protect Caymanians so they are getting the jobs where money is coming in. The fact that we're too loose with our immigration system is not protecting Caymanian employment. If Caymanians are employed in good jobs, they can afford to live in the Cayman Islands with these other solutions that I suggested. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, candidates. That concludes the first round of 4 questions. We're going to take a short commercial break. Please stay with us.
EV public charging can be a bit tricky to navigate if you're new to the game. But fear not. Here's a little 101 on all things public charging at your CUC charge station. The first tip is to get the mobile app up and ready on your phone before you charge your EV at the charging location. You can scan the QR code to load the app from sitting in your car. Download the mobile app, register a charge account, load money into your charge wallet. You must have a minimum of US $5 balance in your charge wallet to begin a charging session. Scan the QR code again to start a charging session using this charger. You can also enter the station ID number into the app. Follow the instructions on the mobile app to initiate your charging session. Now you're ready to charge your EV. Select either the right or the left charge plug. Plug your car in and make sure it shows as charging on your dashboard. Charging for 1 hour will give you up to 35 miles of charge. Charging to 80% optimizes battery life and reduces the risk of overcharging. So in that time, you can shop or go to work or chat with fellow EV owners. It's a real community out there. Great to see you, Maya. Happy charging, everyone. See you on the road.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Georgetown Central. Gone through the first round of questions. Now we're doing to the second round. We're going to address this topic of housing, and I'm going to turn it over to Omari Corbin.
Thanks, Will. And this is our last question on the Chamber Pillar of Advancing Quality of Life. Mrs. McField, we'll start with you. Given that over 50% of the population lives in rental housing, what are your thoughts on the fact that the residential tenancies law proposed in 2009 has yet to be implemented? Would you make this legislation a priority for the next government if you are elected?
Thank you for that question. Sure, I would. I definitely would. Housing is a major issue here in the Cayman Islands. And it goes back to, it circles right back to that immigration issue. We need to get our immigration laws revised. The laws that working, we work with them. The laws that are not working, we need to amend those laws. For far too long, we've been talking about this, and successive governments has just kept kicking the can down the road, and no one seemed to address this issue. Our immigration issue is our major problem. It stems to every little issue, such as housing, everything else, because if we got a minimum amount of affordable housing here, And we got workers coming in day after day, granting these work permits and statuses and residency and everything that don't work for us. But it's free for all here. We need to address the immigration issue and that would trickle down to how we address those housing issues. Because we could build from here to the middle in the sky somewhere, and we still have to address our immigration issues. This island is so big, and we could only take so much and no more. Our immigration issues is our major problem, and that stems right back to housing.
Thank you, Mrs. McField. Mr. Bryan?
Thank you so much for the question, Omari. I think the next administration will have to look at the legislation and see whether they think it's comfortable for them. I'm quite happy with the parameters within the legislation to make sure there's better quality rental units across the island. But we have to recognize there's a lot of them out there that are not. And at this particular time, if you have too much enforcement on that, you may find yourself taking away more market share of housing available that will add to the problem. I think what we need to do is work with the private sector to add more housing stock to the market, while at the same time reducing the amount of people that are here, particularly because I believe there's probably about a solid 3% of the people here that don't need to be here because there's no work for them. That this is one of the problems of uncontrolled immigration, by allowing so much growth without the necessary infrastructure like housing available for them to live in. So as a part of the progressive government, what you would expect to get is a working relationship with private sector developers, those who do development for homes and apartment complex, to incentivize them, give them the right concessions to build affordable houses, while also funding the development, the Housing Development Trust to build more homes. Right now, we have over 700 people waiting for homes, and we got to make sure we can do that fast. So it's all about increasing the supply while reducing the demand. And we can reduce the demand by changes like in the immigration system, with the point system where everybody wants to buy a house in order to get residency, or investors outside who are just at the whim, just be able to buy up the housing stock to put it for rental units or for just for investments, and they're just sitting there empty. So we have to balance that supply and demand principle to make sure that the housing availability for Caymanians are within region. The other part is the east-west arterial. We have to have more access to land that's available. If you put more land on the market, the prices go down. Right now, the land that's available is only land that has a road next to it. There's loads of land that's landlocked. And I think if we do a number of steps together, we can help deal with the housing problem, because it has to be a priority for the next generation so they can own a part of their own home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Mr. Ramon?
Yes, looking at your percentage, the 50% of the population, and I'm sure a good majority of Caymanians are in that percentage to start off with. So we will have to look at the housing inventory, and once we could make a proper assessment, then we can look at the rental issues altogether. So obviously it's something that we have to look at in terms, and it should be a priority for the next government to looking at rental. It is a market, whether or not it's being abused, as you sometimes know or may or be aware of the quality of some of the rentals that is out there, and the amount of money that are still charging. And I guess we can look and say it ties back into our population growth. Yes, there might not be sufficient housing availability. So therefore, anyone would pay for anything, unfortunately, in the state of to stay here in the Cayman Islands. So yes, I would make the legislation a priority. We also have to look at say whether if it entails a commission for the housing legislation, a rental commission, whether or not we want to control the rental fee, but we should also look at the quality of what is actually being rented out there. And sometimes this will fall into play of consumer protection. How do we protect that consumer that is actually engaged in rental? So yes, I would encourage, and I would say make it a priority for the next government when elected.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon.
The following two questions are regarding Chambers Pillar, building a future-ready workforce. The next question is specifically about the immigration white paper. Mr. Bryan, we're going to start with you. With job growth rising and unemployment expected to decline by 2026, how would you balance calls to tighten immigration and work permit policies with the reality that there aren't enough qualified Caymanians to fill the new positions in our expanding economy?
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. With job growth rising and unemployment expected to decline by 2026, how would you balance calls to tighten immigration and work permit policies with the reality that there aren't enough qualified Caymanians to fill the new positions in our expanding economy?
Thank you for the question. I'm trying to make sure I specifically answer what you're asking. So granted, yes, the country is growing and we need outside labor where Caymanians are not qualified. But here's the bigger problem. If we grow too fast with the other issues that we have, like what we just said in the previous question, which is housing, I think we need to fundamentally deal with some of the other issues before we allow that growth to move too quickly. Of course, Cayman has always said within our immigration policy, where there's a Caymanian not qualified, we would allow a work permit holder to be in the Cayman Islands. The question is, who's deciding who's qualified or not? And people are recognizing, particularly our young people who go off and study so hard and come back home, they're now making up other excuses to say that now you don't have experience. That has to stop. So when it says about tightening the immigration system, it's about the protection of the Caymanian people, not about the stoppage of labor into a growing economy. We will do that. I think everybody at this table wants to make sure that our economy is strong with the necessary labor, but not at the expense of the people. So that's the part, the tightening of the immigration system that you hear the Caymanian people talking about. We've always been a very welcoming society, but you can't be over welcoming while your people sit down and suffer, don't get jobs, don't have nowhere to stay, have to pay high prices on rent because it's unmanaged. So while we're talking about the unemployment declining, it may be declining in the Cayman Islands amongst Caymanians, but what about the housing problem that we have? What about the traffic problem that we have? What about the immigration problem that's causing crime, where persons are here having work permits involved in crime? This is what the people are talking about, not because we don't want people here who are qualified to assist us in our economic growth and development. So I think that we got to make sure that we're asking the right question in respect to what we're trying to do. It's about protecting Caymanians and their opportunities in their homeland, and that's what we're committed to doing with the People's Progressive Movement. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ramon, we'll continue with you.
All right, thank you. Immigration policies can tighten and address some of these issues in terms of unemployment. But at the same time, we go back to some of the sentiment I shared earlier in terms of education, training our Caymanians for fit for purpose, specific areas, and taking an inventory of our economy, looking at the various industries. Where are those areas that, yes, Caymanians can fill those positions? We have to take that approach under a microscope, and that is working closely with work, seeing what positions are there, not only looking at work permits from an administrative purpose, but looking at proper succession. When we look at large companies here that have been here, employ a lot of Caymanians, or I would say have a significant number of work permits, how do we then align Caymanians to those positions over a period of time? So we have to look at that holistically. And again, it goes back to immigration. And in the earlier sentiment I shared was about the rate of development of our people and our country. Who are we developing for at the end of the day? So we have to look in, I would say, lessening that gap between our people and the development of this country. So those are the areas we have to look at from holistically to address some of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. McField?
Sure. Thank you. I have to be straight. The white paper need to be recycled. We cannot move forward with suggestions on putting Caymanians at the back burner. They have to be put first. That's our priority. The country priority should be the Caymanian people. And the Caymanian people in regards to students. We need to look at, there's hundreds of Caymanian students that's overseas studying. How are we prioritizing our Caymanian students coming back from universities and being placed in jobs? I have worked immigration for many years. I have sat on the boards and I see how it's structured internally. The system is not working. So I'm going to tell you bluntly, that system is not working is because we got a platform that do not monitor the amount of applications that's submitted on that versus the applications that come in for work permits. And that's the overlap there. And we have to fix that issue. We have to fix that process, because our Caymanians who's looking jobs in unemployed, qualified Caymanians, and I'm talking about trainable Caymanians, in intelligent Caymanians who could do a lot of these jobs, are being overlooked because we have other foreign workers coming in here who's looking out for their friends and they're putting them first in certain jobs, and it's not right. So we have to fix the problem we have with immigration and fix that. And the processes we have is not working. So completely put a halt on it, put a brakes, and go in and clean those laws that are failing our people. Our people is first. This is how it works. This is how the country got to put it. If we can't put our people first, we lose in it. We lose our country, we lose our people. We're fighting a losing battle at this point.
Thank you.
Mr. Ramoon, we'll start with you for question number 7 on the topic of education, equity, and integration. A clear and persistent gap exists in academic performance and test results between public and private schools in the Cayman Islands. What specific actions would you recommend to close this disparity, and how would you promote greater social integration between the two systems so that all students and their families benefit from improved outcomes and shared opportunities?
Well, very interesting question. Yes, whether if it's a reality perception of the disparity and the gaps, it is something that we have to look at. As some people may have the perception in terms of, yes, you get what you pay kind of thing, versus, and that might be a negative connotation, because I myself have came up through the public education system, and coming from where I live, overcame challenges there. Like any of the private school and the public school, they have their challenges. If you're looking at the quality of education, yes, we have to look at it very closely on a microscope to say, well, what is it that the private school is doing differently from the public school? Is it a behavioral issue, concerns, or is it the quality of teachers? So these are things you would have to look at. Yes, I believe in integration. It is very critical, because if we don't look at it from an early stage, in terms of even from the primary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools, it is also a reflection in our society that we have to, how do we live as a people together? And obviously that transcends, because if we don't have it there at that stage, then it's how we here now living as individuals. And some of these issues that we're talking about, the social fabric of our community, you have foreigners living differently or having a different perception of Caymanians, that integration, that understanding, appreciation of our culture. So those are things that we have to look at. Saying how and where, who pays for what, to address these issues collectively as a government. Me and my government will have to look at these, have the relevant discussions with the respective person expertise, and look at a way to lessen these gaps and concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Ramoon. Mrs. McField?
Yes, thank you for the question. In regards to our education systems, we won't have, while working with young persons in our community for years and having a great relationship with them and having children myself, our system is failing. Our system has failed a lot of our children, but there's ways. Not all of our children meant to be doctors, lawyers, and accountants. Not all of them will be academically inclined and do well. I have identified with doing programs and doing studies with working with children, children that has ADD, ADHD, so forth, and I have seen it. I have identified children working in the community through Girls Brigade in church that have these disorders that teachers did not identify. And I made reports and go to the school and visit and do story time with the children and had that conversation with the school, asking them to do assessment on these children. There are various ways that we could identify these things, and we don't do it. I have seen it where I had fight with the government years ago and fought and told them that a lot of the children have certain learning disabilities and they're not bad children. There are ways that we have to address it by putting proper programs in our school, putting these TVEC programs, these different programs that our children could do, that they learning comes in different forms. I have learned that working with children, learning needs to be fun. Learning needs to be something that you got to make reading fun. You got to put on story. You got to be creative with learning. So there's ways that we could fix those gaps when it comes to education and learning. It's not hard. It's just that we fail our own people because we don't take the time to figure it out and try to put the proper systems in place and identify it. So that's to me, that is what it is, because I have experienced it myself and I had to fight with the government.
Thank you, Mrs. McField. Mr. Bryan?
Thank you, Omari. I think the question is trying to talk about why is there a difference between private school and public schools? And private schools are doing well and government schools doesn't. I think there's something that we have to point out first to recognize that government don't get the choice to pick which children can come to their school. Private schools do. They can hand select ones who are doing well, while the government school is obligated by law to give education to every Cayman child, regardless of their difficulties, their disabilities, and so forth. So those who may have the learning challenges will reflect on the school's capabilities. The second point I think we should highlight is there's hundreds and hundreds of good, strong Caymanians that have come to our government schools, have done well. Matter of fact, every one of us up here on the stage right now are products of the Cayman Islands government schools. What we need to be focusing on more is the Caymanian family. The economy and the pressures that we're going through every day makes it so difficult for a parent or parents to do the most important thing, is to help develop your child. You're not supposed to send your child to school and say, okay, just go ahead and learn. You have to come home, sit with them, go through homework and encourage them, check on them, go to parent-teachers meetings. These types of things that the Cayman family are having to be pressured, working 2 or 3 jobs, not being able to have the time or the money to support that child. It takes a lot of work to be a parent. And sometimes the cost factors for Caymanians put so much strain in way that the parent can't do the number one job they were obligated to do, which is to be a good parent. So what I think the government needs to do is give more support to parents so they don't have to work 3 jobs just to survive. Or another area that I think is important is the early intervention. A child starts to learn from almost 6 months old. You have genius children at 3 that can almost read a book. And we're not getting in early. And I think parents that have cost restrictions from them to be able to go and put their child in a learning development from an early stage. So when they get to primary school, they're already advanced. They already know they can count to 100 or say all of their ABCs. We're seeing that they're already having to catch up at the primary school level. So they're already working from behind. These combination approaches of helping parents, helping schools, and recognizing that the government don't get to pick which children they have to deal with should be a reflection of the kind of categorization of each school. But I do see the disparity. Maybe we should have a program where they work with each other. Maybe some kids go to private school for a couple of weeks and vice versa. I know I'm out of time. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan.
The following set of questions are focused on the chamber pillar, sustaining economic success. Mrs. McField, we're going to start with you. And this next question is specifically about economic diversification. Economic diversification is key to long-term stability. What new industries would you introduce, or what areas within our main pillars, financial services and tourism, would you expand to create more well-paying jobs and future opportunities for Caymanians and their children?
Sure. Thanks for that question. Our financial services is one of the number one pillars of our economy. Of course, tourism falls second. And there's many ways that we could advance or bring other things to our economy, such as sports tourism, medical tourism. We could also do more tech savvy things in regards to bringing more technology programs to our islands and introducing very tech, anything that in regards to AI. We could do that, so bringing sort of the AI programs here. It is a beautiful island. It attracts a lot of persons here. When it comes to doing in the financial industry, which I've worked for over 30-something years, there is many ways that we could go into other savvy avenues to make money and help boost the economy. Again, we talk about that AI, the techie stuff, there's various, as I say, sports tourism, medical tourism, and we're known for the beautiful beaches and everything else. If that don't hurry get destroyed, but we could utilize what we currently have once we fix it. But those are the things that I recommend so far.
Thank you. Mr. Bryan?
Thank you, Ms. Pratt. I got about 4 different areas I think that we can expand into. Agriculture and agriculture, because it does 2 things: creates an industry, but also helps us with our food security. We're surrounded by water. I don't know why we don't just grow lobsters and conch and shrimp. Can create an industry for Caymanian to be entrepreneurs and help with the job security component. Obviously, we have to support our agricultural presence from a food security perspective. And I think hopefully there's a question about that I can expand. The other one is technology companies, like my opponent here has said before, because it can take up less space and offer great opportunities from companies that deals with programming and advancements. Another one is yachting opportunities. We're surrounded by water. We were known to be the seamen of the world, but yet still we won't use our harbors in advance. And I think we should invest in that. But obviously working with the Department of Environment to make sure that whatever kind of facilities we put in place are environmentally friendly. But we have to embrace that because we still have so many Caymanians who grew up on the sea that can offer that. Education, industries. I think Cayman is poised to be a warm weather location that can offer up schools. I think if we want to offer a university quite similar to St. Matthews, it's a school that has been benefiting in our economy. People live here, they consume here, they rental spaces. And I think you can do that similarly with other things, whether it's technology education or whether it's marine education. We do one in Little Cayman, but it's very small. I think we should expand that, go to the European Union and maybe have a fun partnership to bring a school like that here in the Cayman Islands. That's another area. So, but more importantly, let's not forget our foundation industries that are doing well. We have to continue to support them and not leave them behind. Because if we stay at the forefront of the industry with tourism and financial services, we can always make sure we rely on them. And we've been doing that for a long time. And I think if we continue to do that, we should be just fine within our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ramon?
Thank you. Looking at the question, and I know in the latter part of it, we talk about trying to expand and create more well-paying jobs for the future of Cayman. Obviously, in some of the current industry that we have, Caymanian seems to be more on the lower end of those jobs. So we have to look at how we can change that, the culture of that, to start off with in those 2 main pillars, the financial service and tourism. But while diversifying those options, as some of my colleagues alluded to, sports tourism. At one time, sports was the pinnacle. Now it's something for us to revisit, sports tourism, separate and apart from all of those things. And it's about bringing individual major sporting competitions here again. And it's the same thing when we look at Cayman as a financial service. We should be able to capitalize more on business tourism because we have a lot of large conferences held here. And how do we then capitalize that and tag a vacation on to those individuals or their families to invite them to come here. Also, we will look at, I would say, special event, major concerts. We jump on a plane, go to Miami when there is large concerts going on. Why not develop a facility here specifically for these type of functions? It's not. So we have to look at the diversity. We can't continue to rely on at the same time or looking at the education of our individuals or Caymanians. And again, education fit for purpose, specific areas. How do we then train them? We're talking about AI technology, the advancements, and to keep them in tune with the development of the world. Because here in Cayman, it is not a local economy anymore. We compete on a global scale in these, unfortunately, these small islands. So we have to look at that. We have to change the mindset of our children, our people, how we approach and move forward. Again, from our jobs, these positions, moving up the corporate ladder, whether if it's in the financial service or the tourist industry. Thank you.
Two rounds of questions complete. We have one more round to go. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back after these short commercial messages.
At CUC, we care about helping our customers. Here are some quick energy saving tips from CUC so you can use less energy and save money. Set your AC Smart Thermostat to maintain an indoor temperature of 87 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you are away from home, and have the temperature cool to a comfortable 78 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you arrive home. Adding insulation can cut your cooling costs by 15 to 45%, depending on your home's size and current insulation. Focus on insulating your attic, walls, and windows for the best results. For your laundry, avoid over-drying clothes. Not only does it waste energy, but it also harms fabrics. Dry towels and heavier cottons separately from lighter weight fabrics to save energy. Your TV and gaming setup can be big energy consumers. Save costs by reducing in-game settings and turning off your console when not in use. Remember, every small step counts. Use energy wisely and make a big difference in your energy bills and the environment.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
In the Cayman Islands, our habitats, including coral reefs, coastlines, and mangroves, are all dependent on one another. Our economy is no different. From people to businesses, right through to government, it's all connected. And just like everyone wants a healthy ecosystem, everyone wants a healthy economy too. Cayman is a top-ranked international financial center and domicile for captives, investment funds, and pensions worldwide. And our biggest economic contributor? Construction, you ask? Not quite. Tourism? Close. It's true that we're a country of consumers, and the more people we have using our services,
the more money we make. But our actual greatest economic contributor is our world-class financial services. Long ago, we had a simple economy. One person has fish, another person needs to eat. That's a transaction. Now imagine that instead of fish, it's a boat, a house, or a car, or a fleet, or business you can earn on. That's investment. But what if you're in Canada and your investment is based in China? Whose rules and regulation do you use? Cayman maintains a high level of integrity with a stable government and a UK-based legal system, globally respected for fairness. That's why so many countries choose us for these transactions. The more transactions we do, the more specialized we become, and the more our economy grows. The result? Cayman is now home to many of the world's top accountants, law firms, banks, fiduciary firms, and administrators. Unlike most countries, Cayman doesn't add an extra layer of taxes on top of tax paid in an investor's home country. That way, there's no duplication of taxation. Instead, our financial services fees ensures constant investment in our professional sector's exceptional service. Cayman's tax-neutral status combats tax evasion with legislation, regulation, and more, ensuring the highest international standards for transparency and cross-border cooperation and attracting reputable investors. All these factors make the Cayman Islands an ideal and trusted international financial center.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Georgetown Central. We've gone through the first round of two rounds of questions. Now we're turning our attention to the third round. Right? Third round, there we go. Then we're going to deal with tourism development, and I'll turn it over to Omari.
Mr. Brand, we'll start with you for question number 9. Tourism numbers in the Cayman Islands have yet to return to pre-COVID levels. Considering the higher economic impact of stay-over visitors compared to cruise passengers, what is your position on prioritizing quality over quantity in our tourism strategy? And what specific actions would you take to grow and strengthen the sector?
Thank you, Omari, and I'm so happy to get this question. The good news is that Cayman has always prided itself over quality. Not only quality of passengers that come here, but quality of service that we deliver. In respect to our current product, I think diversification across the island is probably one of the most important things, because what we're having is a concentration of all of our guests being to the western side of the island. And there's so much opportunities in the eastern districts, north side, east end, and Bordentown. And that's why the east-west arterial road is so important, so that we can have passengers that come off the cruise ships to be able to get to locations in the Eastern District in a reasonable period of time and back. So a cruise berthing facility would have helped that, as well as the East-West Arterial, so we can expand and not have everybody clustered in one area. I have to take this opportunity to talk about the beach erosion matter. It's something that's a national priority, and we have to rectify it. It's affecting our international brand for 7 Mile Beach. To be honest with you, I'm not sure if we can say 7 Mile Beach anymore. And I think that the community has to come together and recognize that we're both benefiting from that beach, the landowners as well as the Cayman Islands, from the room accommodation taxes from those condos and hotels that are affected. The private property owners in the area have already committed to doing their part and putting their money involved in it. And I think that we have to work closely with the Department of Environment to get that resolved quickly with a partnership of payments, so we can resolve that, and also create a fund for the long term, any kind of beach erosion, because beach erosion is seriously affecting our tourism product. So expanding into the Eastern District so that the quality of our service delivery is not so concentrated and feel like you're at a concert. Cayman has always been able to give individual service in reasonable amounts. It's just that we're putting all of our attractions and services to the western side of the island. And I think it's also a part of our diversification of opportunities for Caymanians, particularly those lovely people in the eastern side of the island. So that's what I would do. And we got a plan for that with the People's Progressive Movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Mr. Ramon?
Yes, thank you. Looking at the question in regards to stayover versus cruise passengers and the quality versus quantity, obviously that is a big question when we're looking at the referendum that is now in place in terms of saying, well, are we looking for greater, bigger mega ships to come here in terms of quantity? Are we then looking at the quality of the passengers and the impacts that they can have when they do come ashore in terms of spending the value for dollar? Because as you know, when we look at cruise tourism, which, just to set the record straight, that yes, we need both aspects of those tourism, stay over and cruise tourism. But at the same time, we have to look at it critically, because now if you look at our current infrastructure in town and we're looking at numbers or increasing the number of cruise tourism, it will have a significant impact. More so, well, we complain about traffic, people are moving in, the infrastructure in terms of persons coming in, what are the value are they bringing in terms of the dollar value spending those money. And again, we go back to our Caymanian product, our people. Again, tourists come here to interact with Caymanians. And again, we are a disappearing product. When we look at our beaches, as Mr. Bryan alluded to, we have to address our beaches. How do we then address those The other factor when we look at other type of sectors or small business people, entrepreneurship, these are things that we should be encouraging or developing now. So when you walk into town in the revitalization, we should see cafes, artistry, functions, entertainers, and not so more just t-shirt stores, jewelry stores that just floods everything. And this is also too to bring our people back into town after hours, that we can enjoy these aspects of our things. So yeah, there was a specific things that we have to look at, looking at our quality, improving our quality, our products, that we can then attract more quality tourism, whether if they stay over or whether if they cruise passengers. Those are the things in terms of our Caymanian product. We have to look at that specifically.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon. Mrs. McFeel?
Yes, thank you for the question. That's a really good question. And I must say, it is high time now that we really look. We are the biggest product of our tourism, Caymanians. We are the product. Caymanians, we have to sell ourselves. We have to get a proper facility in Georgetown for our persons, for the Caymanians that is out there selling the products, selling themselves. We need to have more Caymanians going back into hospitality. We have lost that. So the product is the people. The product is the country. The product is those beaches, those lovely beaches that we see eroding away and being destroyed. And persons coming here that's either on work permit and the people that just come in on the flights, we don't know who they are, whether they're criminals, going to the beach and committing crimes. Those are things that depleting the products and making it and bringing down who we are and what our beaches and what we built there. The God put the beaches there, but we are the product of this entire island, these 3 islands. And I would like to see us sell more of the people, the real Caymanian kind of that loving, kind personalities that we have, the foods that we all known for, that we cook. Put those things on the beach. Let's bring Cayman back to Cayman. Let people come and visit here and see that there's no person selling drugs on the beach, cursing, doing the things that they do. That is not who we are. We cannot try to bring increase the product of cruise tourism when we can't fix the beaches and fix the people on the beaches and fix the products there. That's a problem. That's an issue. So we got to put a proper market. We lost our market, and it's been over 5 years since they no longer have a craft market. That craft market, we need to put our people instead of on a temporary tent with temporary parties. We need to put a proper market there so we could stand strong and sell who we are. Put Caymanians back in there. I recall as a child, my mother worked at West Indian Club, and she worked in the tourist industry. We don't have any more Caymanians working in the tourist industry. We need to put Cayman back in that tourist industry. That is who we sell in. We can't be spending $60-something million to advertise a product when we are the product. Let's sell us. Put something, bill it. Let's get it back to where it needs to be. And that's how we could increase it. And it will go from there. Yacht, we could start with the mega yachts. And that's what I want to leave it with. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. McPhail.
This next question is regarding the Georgetown Cargo Port and infrastructure upgrades. Mr. Ramon, we're going to start with you. With a growing population and rising import demands, the Georgetown Cargo Port's outdated infrastructure, limited dock space, aging cranes, and shallow depths poses serious challenges. Regardless of the cruise berthing referendum outcome, would you prioritize cargo port upgrades in the next term? What specific actions would you take to modernize the port and support Cayman's economic growth?
Yes, good question. I know you said regardless of the cruise berthing, but I guess the two still going hand in hand. And what will be determined of that for the next government to decide where, if and where there would be an relocation of the port or cruise berthing. And so that would be an intricate part to, I guess, to determine or make some assessment in that fact. But in terms of prioritizing, in terms of the issues that is highlighted there, the crane, the size of the port, and the mechanism and the hours being worked at this point in time, we are a growing economy and our population is growing. So obviously we talk about food security, importations of goods and services. How fast can we move those? So yes, we have to look at the crane, because at the end of the day, it comes back to safety of the people working on the port. The space and cargo upgrades is necessary, and myself and our government will look at how to address those and improve those things, working on efficiency. If or not the cruise berthing is there and the port in its own existence, we have to look at how we can work on efficiency of the port and the capability expansions of the machinery needed and the movements, whether in looking at the infrastructure in town itself or looking at feasible other locations will be critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. McField?
Yes, thank you for the question. I'm reading this question and realize that it is a very important question. Very important. My answer is we need the crane like yesterday. We have one crane we're operating with. Our island is an island. We do not have no other means of getting food supplies but importing everything. Clothes, food, everything we doing and everything we have day to day is from imports. So our crane, it is very critical that we stop, our government pause, reprioritize how they spend, so the money that they spend loosely and foolishly should go on that crane. First of all. Next, Cayman Brac. Cayman Brac, it costs $10 to get a Dove soap. $10 and almost $15 for a gallon of milk. Crazy. I'm about to, when I go to the Brac, I'm saying I should be getting a cow and take him there and start milking him myself. It is that bad. But the priority should be on the crane to bring the cost down in the country. We need a crane for Cayman Brac because Cayman Brac has no crane. a proper crane. Cayman Brac don't have, they have to ship stuff from Florida to Cayman Islands and then Cayman Brac. By the time the stuff reach the Cayman Brac, the goods, it is almost spoiled and the people is getting stale goods. So it is very important that we prioritize spending. The problem is is how we manage our money. We need to we need to consider how the government spend and put people that are going to be responsible, fiscally responsible, and spend smart. Stop this foolish spending on things we don't need and put it on the things we need. It is very critical. That's the end of what I got to say, that the two Queens are very critical. Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac. And that's where I end that.
Thank you. Mr. Bryan?
Thank you so much for the question. Yes, the cargo infrastructure that we are dealing with right now is going to be essential for the next 5 years to 10 years. And I think we definitely have to go back to the people and speak to them. We, as the Minister for Ports, we did some public consultation, did a report suggesting locations and considerations. And quite like the cruise berthing situation, had a lot of concerns from an environmental perspective. So we have to get past that hurdle with the people about whether we're going to move or redevelop the current area so we can have enough space for our growth. Unfortunately, our growth rates right now are at 4%, which is massive for a small island. So I think when we couple the immigration controls and managed approach to our population growth, that we can make amendments to the current operations at the port to make sure that we're not moving too fast, that we get to that critical point of we can't do any more to service the people that are here. I agree that the crane situation has to be, and the equipment has to be upgraded. My colleague may not know, but a crane is already being procured as we speak. It does take a long time for these procurement processes to happen. I've heard on other platforms talking about it with that party, about the crane, but that problem will be resolved rather soon. It's something that I've been working on as the minister already. Also, we do get food in from other areas other than by sea. Hence the reason you heard me talking about the cargo facility on Cayman Airways and our expansion into the South American market. We can import goods through air arrivals as well to limit the strain on the cargo element while we try to decide how we're going to approach this. People are not happy with the population growth and the speed that it's at, and neither am I. But eventually, regardless if we slow it down now, eventually we're going to get to a point where the current cargo facility is insufficient to provide for the country, particularly when you're doing operations at night. Georgetown Central would be such a better place without the cargo facilities there. We could do so much more and allow the people who own the properties in that area to actually maximize the value on their property. So yes, I'm committed to upgrading and discussing, and our government will definitely talk to the people about what we're going to do about the cargo facility, whether it's simple upgrades there or moving the facility altogether, but it has to be with public consultation. Thank you.
Thank you.
This will be the last question from me for the night. And Mrs. McField, we'll start with you for question number 11 on the topic of retirement security and elderly support. Many retirees in Cayman face financial insecurity due to insufficient pension savings, and the public sector pension scheme is underfunded. Would you support a new approach to better address the needs of retirees and the elderly in our community? And if so, what solutions would you propose and how would you sustainably fund them?
Thank you for that question. I know firsthand about our elderlies in our communities. I live next to a particular elderly lady who retired a few years ago. At age 60, she was basically working for the government and retired, and she could barely pay her mortgage. Each month, I make it a priority to assist this lady because this lady is struggling, and it hurts me to my heart to see our Caymanians that work so hard, even in the civil service. One way that I personally feel that we could do that is prioritizing the way we spend as a government. There's ways the government got $1.something billion in their budget. How is that money being used? How is the funds being used? There's ways that we could reprioritize and cut back on spending in certain areas or not spend at all. We cannot see because there's no real transparency to see how the money is really being spent. And our elderlies are people that built this country. Our seniors is the ones that built this country. We owe them a lot. So we have to give back to them. We have to give back to them in a way financially that they could also live and not feel like they have slaved and worked in this country for so long and they're left behind and forgotten. So the solution is reprioritizing on the way the government spend, and the various ways that I mentioned on how we could cut back costs is try to cut back on the spending, prioritize the way they spend. There's certain things they spend that should not be. Also, cutting costs and cost of living by putting solar on all the government buildings, and they would save that way. The other way is stop giving concessions. Any billionaire that come in here that wants to do business in Cayman, that money should be given for our people, not concessions for them to do business. That is the next way. You come, you pay the price to do business with us, take care of our people. And that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, Mrs. McField. Mr. Brian?
Can you repeat the question again for me, please?
Will do. Just give me 1 second. All right. Many retirees in Cayman face financial insecurity due to insufficient pension savings, and the public sector pension scheme is underfunded. Would you support a new approach to better address the needs of retirees and the elderly in our community? And if so, what solutions would you propose, and how would you sustainably fund them?
Thank you so much, Amari. In respect to the the pension system, I think that we definitely have to look at reforming it, and particularly how it's invested, to have it more in secure investments, because the pensions funds have been losing a lot. And that's one of the main reasons why pensioners don't have as much funds within their accounts. So reforming that with consultation with entities like Chamber of Commerce on how best suited in this new day and age. It hasn't been reformed in many decades. An increase in the cap of what retired persons can withdraw per month once they retire, because that cap is too low with the high cost of living that we currently have. The third point I would say is we have to increase the retirement age. Strong, amazing, smart individuals are living up to age 75 can still continue to contribute to the society. We should not push them out at age 65. And I think we should increase that possibly to 70. Obviously, don't want to force them to work forever, enjoy their retirement, but increasing it to 70 would be a good thing so they have more money in their fund. Also, I would support the DFA, better known as NAU, in helping those who have limited pensions to make sure that they have support. Also, to help fund these funds in the different pension pools, allow more voluntary contributions in the systems, because the larger the pool, the higher possible interest and benefits that the whole pool gets. So the more money that's put in, the better it is. And particularly for those persons who are retirees that work for civil service, make sure that their pension amounts and the benefits they get from government, whether it's seaman benefits, poor persons relief, or past civil servants, make sure the amounts that they get are tied to inflation, where it's not subject to whether a government is in or not. So if it's $1,200 today, inflation goes up and it goes up by 150, then you put it to $1,350. So it's not subject to politicization, politics and governments and so forth. So a number of these entities together, I think, will help those who are in retirement and dealing with the pension issue that we have today. So thank you, Omar.
Thank you, Mr. Brian. Mr. Ramon?
So the question, yes, I would support a new approach and better ways to address the needs of the elderly and in our community and retirees. I mean, as you know, you age, you have more health complications to start off with. Well, sometimes you don't have to be that old, but looking at healthcare services and how can we reduce those financial burdens, whether or not extending free medical insurance for those elderly and retirees. That would be first and foremost. Also, too, as you know, with proper financial planning, in the ideal world, when we retire, it is the goal that we would not have a mortgage, but that doesn't always work or go according to plan. So how do we then look at persons with mortgage? What are the additional financial support that they will need? So we will have to assess that. In terms of the pension fund itself and being underfunded, the government will have to, I guess, investigate that, make an relevant assessment with the relevant expertise in how can we ensure that that is well funded and supported for sustainability, given the fact that we have a growing aging population and they will come where they will request for withdrawal and that. So we got to have money readily available to support those individuals. So yes, we need to look at proper funding where there's not underfund, that it doesn't necessarily becomes a direct burden on the government itself. How do we then address those matters? And again, it goes back to some of the fundamental proper financial planning while in as a working class to say, well, prepare making your money work for you while you're working, so you do not solely have to rely on a pension. Those are certain things that we have to look at, preventative measures rather than also just deal with the cure when it does come around. So those are some of the solutions, but again, working with the relevant parties to see how we can best address these concerns, issues.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon.
So this is the last question for tonight. And it's going to be focused on welfare society. Mr. Brian, we're going to start with you. With tens of millions spent annually on direct government assistance, from school lunches to support for seafarers and the elderly, some say the Cayman Islands are becoming a welfare society. Without a direct tax system, do you believe this level of spending is sustainable? If not, how would you reduce or reallocate cost or increase revenue to support these programs in the long term?
Thank you so much for the question. It's pretty straightforward. Make sure Caymanians have access to the opportunities that this great economy has and put them first. Tightening our immigration system, supporting our education system to make sure that they get access to the opportunities and the great jobs that pay well. I agree with you about the fact that too many people are on welfare, but at this particular point, until we fix the mess that has been created over the last 2 to 3 decades, we're going to have to make sure our people are taken care of, regardless of the cost. We can't be chosen and elected to serve our people, but watch them starve to death or have nowhere to sleep. It's just unacceptable. But we have to also work on the economy at the same time. Caymanians don't like to see the success of everybody else while they get none. So while we work on the economy, work on the business community to work with our unemployed, those who are employed or underemployed, to make sure they have the opportunities to provide for their families, then we will reduce the element of dependency. And that combination of things will force us not to have to be worried about the cost of health and welfare. The other part to that is increasing the strength of our economy and our revenues so that there's not a cost component to be concerned about. I think there's so much more that we can do with financial services, particularly in fintech technologies that we can dive into in a separate part of financial services. And in respect to tourism, I think that there's so much more that we can expand there. So the economy opportunities are great. What we got to focus on is that the people who are of this land don't have to depend on the government so much. And the way we do that is protect their opportunities by way of business, employment, pension, healthcare, and the cost of living altogether. When we reduce those factors, we won't have a welfare situation, and we can all succeed in the Cayman Islands. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ramon?
Thank you. Well, looking at the breakdown of the question and some of the components that you have highlighted, it all comes back down to spending. And when we look at all spending, yes, some of these things are critical that we have to spend. Sometimes I think it may just be a breakdown of our society and country where we have lacked vision over the years, and now we have to address this. So it's almost have to deal with it as a band-aid effect and pacifying the situation. So when I said spending, this also, we have to look at capital spending, the overall spending of the government, being able to prioritize where we spend our money and how we spend it, and looking at the critical areas. And looking at some of the areas in terms of school lunches, yes, that may be critical, because when we look at the social and the challenges of our families, that yes, some families are unable to pay for lunches for their children, and it's a reality. So yes, it is good that the government is doing those things. And it seems as the seafarers, those are persons that have built our economy over the years, and for us is acknowledging and also appreciating the value of what they have contributed to our country. But in terms of looking at other sources, we have to, I know we mentioned about with the referendum, the lottery, whether if that can be another source of income to address some of these things, and other means of diversifying our revenue streams. Yes, it's going to be critical to support these programs, but at the same time, when we look at other revenue streams to address or support these programs, we have to reassess these programs and say, well, are they cost effective? Are they efficient? Are they doing the job? And maybe some of these can be changed over time. But for now, we have to look at how we support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. McField?
Yes, thank you for the question. It goes back, for me, it goes back again to lack of good fiscal leadership and how we spend. Not being, if our government don't take responsibility, and that's the successive government, and learn how to manage money, we will always have this problem. We could put lottery, we could put anything we want, and we get all excited when they see all the money and they just spend it foolishly. It goes back to being responsible. How do we, if we're going to save on what, you can't rob Peter to pay Paul. If you're going to save on one end, we can't save on one end and just loosely spend it. It have to make sense. Spending have to make sense. Yes, our seniors, they deserve that, because after 65 and they reach certain age and they've done their time, they need that support. They need that help from the government. Our children, not all the children, I feel, in our government schools, some parents can afford it. So if that's the case, we got to balance it that way. We got to go back to the system. If the families could afford to pay for the lunches and they could help that way, let's pay for the lunches. If they can't afford it, because we afford other things. There is the struggling economy, but there's some that just enjoying the wealth of they work in the private sector, they make good money and they're enjoying it, and they get the luxury of having free lunch for their kids also, including computers and everything else that you think about. And the children sometimes don't appreciate the value of these things, and they mash up and they got to replace them at the schools. I know, because I go to the schools to do programs on a weekly and monthly basis. But besides that, we do have struggling. Majority of our children in our public schools are struggling children, and I support that because I support them. But it goes back to how we spend. If we're going to keep receiving it, how are we spending it to be responsible with it? So yes, let's say that our seafarers get it, and what we do to make more money. We got development. We got people coming in here to do development. What are we doing? Are we taxing them on those persons that coming in here to do various developments? We should stop giving concessions and tax them, and that money could go to offset, to assist those seniors and children in need.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, candidate. Excuse me. Thank you, candidates. We've gone through 12 questions, and now we're going to take a short commercial break. And when we return, each of our candidates will deliver their closing statements. Please stay with us.
At CUC, we care about helping our customers. Here are some quick energy saving tips from CUC so you can use less energy and save money. Set your AC Smart thermostat to maintain an indoor temperature of 87 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you are away from home, and have the temperature cool to a comfortable 78 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you arrive home. Adding insulation can cut your cooling costs by 15 to 45%, depending on your home's size and current insulation. Focus on insulating your attic, walls, and windows for the best results. For your laundry, avoid over-drying clothes. Not only does it waste energy, but it also harms fabrics. Dry towels and heavier cottons separately from lighter weight fabrics to save energy. Your TV and gaming setup can be big energy consumers. Save costs by reducing in-game settings and turning off your console when not in use. Remember, every small step counts. Use energy wisely and make a big difference in your energy bills and the environment.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Georgetown Central. We've gone through 12 questions this evening. It's now time for each of the candidates to deliver their closing remarks. And we're going to begin with Mr. Anthony Ramon.
The good people of Georgetown and the wider Cayman Islands, you have now heard from all three candidates of Georgetown Central. Our constituency has been badly neglected. Our national tourism product and the quality of life has been eroded, and our people have become invisible. But all is not lost. This is why we have elections. Tonight, I ask you to hold a vision of what Georgetown Central can become and will become when you allow me to be the steward of our community and to its full potential. With me as your MP, with the support of my team, the Cayman Community Party, I will make it my mission for the next 4 years to bring Georgetown Central back to its former glory. I will bring practical and actionable plans for the future of Georgetown Central, our youth. I will support the Georgetown Central entrepreneurships and families. I will optimize and prioritize dignity and security for the golden years of our elderly. Together, we can truly build a Caymanian tourist product. For those entering Georgetown, I will be a leader who is present and willing and listen to you. I will be present in our shared reality, working daily for you, changing and growing our community side by side with you. I will not lead by fear, but respect. Every well-informed decision will be for the best interests of all people and all the time, and to unite our people. Georgetowners are a talented and creative people, a community full of character and abilities, but it's a tragedy that our town has been impacted and devastated over the last several years because of decisions and neglect that have been made on behalf of you. We do not deserve this. We can do better. If you vote for me, Anthony Ramon, I will ensure, along with my team, we'll honor your talents, value your lives, and support you to fulfill your potential and to access the abundance of these islands. Together, I want to say thank you for allowing me into your homes and sharing your concerns and vision for this country. We are not at any crossroads. You may come up on a roundabout, but be careful. If you get on, you may go right back where you came from. Get on the right track, the right train, the Ramon train. for change in the right direction, vote number 3, Anthony Ramon and the Cayman Community Party.
Sure, thank you. First, I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting us, hosting this forum and giving me the opportunity to share my vision. And to the people of the Cayman Islands, thank you for taking the time to listen. Your presence tonight shows that you care about the future of our nation and carefully considering the leaders who will guide you towards a stronger and more prosperous Cayman Islands. As we approach this election, remember, this is about more than just choosing a representative. It's about shaping the future of Georgetown Central and the Cayman Islands as a whole. This challenge we face here are part of the larger issue affecting our entire country, and we need leaders who are ready to tackle them with real solutions. I pledge to be a steadfast listener and tireless advocate for our community. Your voices, your struggles, and your hope will always be my top priority. For far too long, we heard the same promises, the same excuses, and seem like little action. That must change. I am committing to being a leader who will not only listen, but delivers every single day, not just during election season. This election is our chance to demand better, to choose leaders who serve with integrity, accountability, and action. I am ready to fight for you, to work alongside you, and to build a stronger, fairer, and more prosperous Georgetown Central. I humbly ask you to please support me, Carmen Macfield. Together we can make a change we deserve. Vote for Carmen Macfield on April 30th, the ballot number 2, Georgetown Central.
And thank you, Will, Amari, Christina. Thank you so much to the audience. To my opponents, thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you. To the good people of Georgetown Central, as your representative, I've walked our streets. I've listened to your concerns. I've celebrated your victories, and I stood with you during the times of hardship. Together, we've made great strides, and we've accomplished a lot so far. But the journey is far from over because there's so much more to do, and we cannot afford to slow down now. Let us not risk losing the momentum that we have built in Georgetown Central. Let's continue moving forward together because I stand firmly with you, and we know this. I stand for progress. I stand for ready to serve you for another 8 years, not another 4, because we have a lot to do. And that's because I care about your hopes, your dreams, and your struggles. And if you give me the privilege of serving you again, I will continue to work with you and for you so that your voices are not just heard, but they're acted upon with a strong team, the People's Progressive Movement. But this election is not just about me. It's about all of us in the Cayman Islands. It is about our children and the families, our livelihoods, and our way of life, and the legacy of the future generations to come. This election is about choosing a leader that will not only work for you, but who has consistently delivered for you. And I am that leader. Having served as your representative, as your minister, as a chairman of the regional organization within the Caribbean, and now as your deputy premier, it has been the greatest honor in my life. And these roles I've grown in experience, in wisdom, and in patience, and in my ability to navigate the challenges of good governance. I intend to take that growth and use every lesson that I've learned, every experience that I've gained, and every single ounce of determination to push our country forward for better. My style of leadership is not about standing above you, but standing with you. I've worked tirelessly for Georgetown Central and everyone in it, regardless if you're a voter or not. And I will continue to do so with your love, with with integrity, professionalism, and strength that you expect and you truly deserve. I ask you to put your trust in me once more, knowing that I will stand and I'll still be here on your behalf. But this time, I'm a part of a strong team of experienced individuals ready to hit the ground running to tackle the issues like cost of living, job creation, housing, healthcare, education, crime reduction, safety, and so many other issues that you face every day that are impacting us all. So Georgetown Central, I love you. I thank you for the 8 years, and I look forward to another 8 years. So vote for Kenneth Bryan, #1 on your ballot on April 30th. God bless you, and good night.
Thank you, candidates, for your time and attending this forum. I'm now turning it over to Chamber President Omari Corbin for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Will. On behalf of the Chamber Council and staff, I would like to thank Mr. Anthony Ramon, Mrs. Carmen McPhail, and Mr. Kenneth Bryan for participating in this evening's forum. I trust that this forum will help Georgetown Central voters make informed decisions about who to vote for when they go to the polls on April 30th. I would also like to thank Ashley Furniture and Home Store, CUC, Foster's, and Logic for sponsoring the Chamber's candidate forums. Please join us tomorrow evening as we welcome the 3 candidates from Georgetown South, Craig Frederick, Alric Lindsay, and Gary Rutty. Please note that all forums will be posted on the Chamber's YouTube channel for your future reference. The Chamber Council is also pleased to announce that the leaders of the 3 political parties have confirmed their participation in the Chamber's inaugural debate featuring the party leaders scheduled for next Wednesday, April 9th. This marks a historic first for the Chamber, providing the community with a unique opportunity to hear directly from each leader about their party's vision and priorities, both on national issues and local concerns. So we hope that you will tune in then. So thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope that you will join us tomorrow evening, and please have a restful night.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Why is my bill higher? These days, it might seem like the cost of everything is going up here in Cayman. When it comes to your energy bill, this may be no exception. You may be wondering why your bill is higher when you haven't done anything different in your home. Here are some common factors that will increase your energy usage. As temperatures outside increase, your air conditioning unit has to run longer to keep your house cool, even if you haven't adjusted the thermostat. During the summer months, cooling your home can make up more than half of your energy bill. It's important to maintain your AC so that it can function as efficiently as possible. Changing your AC filters can also help with ensuring units are functioning properly. Remember, for every degree you turn up your thermostat, you can save on your monthly energy cost. Turn off your AC when no one is home. Thermostat should not be set any lower than 78 degrees. Also consider closing blinds and drapes on the sunny side of your home. This will help reduce the temperature inside your home. Remember to consider energy waste. Think about the items in your home that are using energy, like gaming computers and ceiling fans. Always unplug and turn these items off when they are not in use or needed. This will help you conserve. Now that you have some energy saving tips, you can track your consumption daily on MyCUC. Learn more at www.cuc-cayman.com.